Thank you, Mr. President. Honourable Manyi, you raised your hand. I will now recognise you.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, towards the end of last year, there was a spirited attempt, or rather a spirited effort to shape the rules of this House and in order to improve decorum and all of that, so that we don't have a situation where when the President is addressing, then there's a whole flurry of point of orders and all of that. Now, if you have a situation where, despite those rules to try and maintain order in this House, you then have a President that was part of an impeachment process that now continues to mock our party leader here in Parliament.
Honourable Manyi, that is...
We have a problem. The President
that is a
continue,
question of debate. It is not a point of order.
The President cannot continue to keep mocking our party leader as a judge when he knows that they participated in a process to unfairly impeach him. Now he impeaches him on the one side and he mocks him
Honourable
again. That
Manyi,
cannot be allowed.
Honourable Manyi, that is not a point of order and it is dismissed. We will now proceed. Honourable Dlakude. Mr. President, we still have another point. Honourable Dlakude.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. The order on the order paper is questions to the President. It doesn't allow anyone to make statements other than the follow-up questions. So if the Honourable Manyi had something to say against the President, something to say, he must bring in the substantive motion to this House. Thank you very much.
You are quite correct. That is the process, Honourable Manyi. If you do have a point to be made, it is a substantive motion, but in any case, I have dismissed that point. We will now proceed with the third supplementary question, and it will be asked by the Honourable Manyi.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And Honourable President, firstly, I want to celebrate our stance as consistent since democratic history of our country on facilitating human rights in the continent. And I think we've taken a forthright and a strong position in this regard. What I am wanting to understand, Mr. President, is that beyond just proclaiming the statements, how do we reconcile our position in being able to meet with leaders such as Mr. Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, who faces some serious allegations on the basis of allegations of genocide in the early 2000s and now continues to wage war in Sudan? Equally so, Mr. President, South Africans were well treated to information about the fact that Zanu PF were looking to advise during the elections to the South African government. Now, Mr. President, given that...
Honourable Maimane, your time has expired, but you can complete your question in a sentence.
So my question is, how do we move from merely speaking about human rights to condemning acts in Zimbabwe and
Order,
in Sudan?
members, the President cannot hear the question. Mr. President.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I'd like to say to Honourable Manyi and indeed to Honourable Hlophe that if my reference to the title is offensive, I apologize and I withdraw. So it's not a matter that one should articulate if it is found to be offensive. And I guess maybe because of having been legally trained, when you see another person who's been legally trained, you have that tendency of wanting to ascribe certain titles to them. So I apologize and I withdraw. Coming to Honourable Malema's question. No.
Honourable members, Honourable President, I have to remind you it was the Honourable Maimani's question.
Wabona kuri. Ora ke le lemile la ka la o rata bjano le no bolela fela. Honorable Maimani's question about why one or we would continue to meet people like General Dagalo. As a country, we've often said that in order to foster peace, we should be willing to meet those who are involved in conflict situations. And that has been the practice that even my predecessors have been involved in, where we are, as we broker peace amongst belligerent parties, we are prepared and willing to meet with them so that we are able to understand precisely what drives them, and also so that they can understand where we come from as we advocate for peace. So we believe that we should not say, we will not meet this one and we will only meet this one. You may recall, Honorable Maimani, that we were, as South Africa, part of the African peace mission that went to both Ukraine and to Russia. And that meant we were willing to talk to both parties who are involved in the conflict, with a view of getting the two parties to meet so that they can have a peace process. You cannot make peace with just the one party that is involved in a conflict. You've got to be willing to meet with both parties, and that's precisely what we have done. You may or may not know that with regard to Sudan, we have met both parties. We have met both generals, both the generals who are involved in this conflict. We've met them, and we've communicated to them the need for peace. Of them were aimed. Both came to South Africa, and I met them. And I would like to believe that as we engage with them and we talk to them, the positions that they may well have also begin to be tempered towards having a peaceful solution. So we don't subscribe to the notion that you should not meet this one because they are branded in a particular way. As a neutral party, non-aligned, we believe that it is best to make all efforts to ensure that there is peace in whatever conflict that there is. And that has stood us well. And whenever we do so, we are able to give notice to the other belligerent party so that they should never misunderstand our intentions. They should always understand that our objective is to ensure that there is peace in whatever conflict. And that has always been accepted. And you may recall as well that last year we did participate on the sidelines brokering the peace between the belligerent parties in Ethiopia. And they finally came here. And that we were able to do by talking to both parties and making sure that, yes, there is peace. Even in the conflict in the DRC, we are working to talk to all the parties that are involved. So it is important that as we foster peace, we should be seen as an honest broker. We should be seen as a peacemaker who is willing to bring belligerent parties together. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Sali.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honourable President, please advise whether you are aspiring and ready to become Africa's brother Muammar Gaddafi, Robert Sobukwe, Steve Biko, and Chris Hani, who all had clear visions for a United States of Africa under the banner of Pan-Africanism. I thank you.
Honourable the President.
If one understands and follows the policy trajectory that we have taken on foreign matters, on our foreign policy, it is really rooted around promoting Pan-Africanism, where we have, as a country, embraced the Pan-Africanism approach, if you like, philosophy, and where we have sought to be pro-Africa in everything that we do. And at times, we've often sounded like we are the most vociferous country in promoting Africa. We often see ourselves as being African first and advocating African interests. And it is for that reason that even during the COVID crisis that the whole world faced, we were focused on Pan-Africanism. We were focused on calling on the world, firstly, to reduce the debt that African countries had, to cancel the debt that African countries had, and to have standstill agreements on the repayment of the debt that African countries had. And in that regard, we were less advocating for ourselves, but advocating more for Africa, African countries. And when it came, for instance, to PPEs, personal protective equipment, we were able to have a number of those items made ourselves here. But we advocated for our continent as a whole to have better access to PPEs. And when it came to vaccines, our approach was full-blown Pan-African. And we were advocating for the continent as a whole, to a point where at times we put the interests of our continent even ahead of our own interests, because we do believe that we are inherently African, and we need to promote the interests of the African continent. So in the end, whether we are judged as any of those that you referred to is a matter of those who will pass that judgment. But we know what we stand for. We stand for Africa, and we want to advance the interests of our continent. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.